the problem, and this is what the BJP is saying, these can't be seen as statements in isolation. It's not just one Udhyanidhi Stalin. It's also what the Karnataka Chief Minister said today about what he called a denigrating practice of removing shirt while entering certain Hindu temples. The former Deputy Chief Minister and the current Home Minister, he says the origins of Hinduism are not known. Why should these not be construed as insults to practitioners of the Hindu faith and the people who believe in the Hindu faith?
It's fairly simple. What Parmeshwar has said is elementary knowledge, that Hinduism has no acknowledged founder, that its origins are not known, and everyone is comfortable with it. I don't see what is suddenly something unacceptable about something that everyone always knew. I mean, we don't have a Jesus-like founder or a Prophet Muhammad-like founder, nor do we have the Bible or Quran-like texts. And it's fine. It's not a problem because Hinduism is a very different sort of a religion. Secondly, if you listen to Siddaramaiah's comment, he's not saying anything against Hinduism. He's saying temples can be discriminatory by asking the visitors to take off their shirt, which will then allow priests to tell who has a sacred thread and who doesn't, which then forms the basis of how they treat them. Now, is it anti-Hinduism or is he asking for equality within the temple? It's pretty clear it's the latter, Zaka. So I think we are conflating many things that are very different.
GS Prashanth, respond. How is asking for shirts to be removed, how is that seen as and the Chief Minister sort of ranting against it, how is that being seen as anti-Hindu? And also what Professor Gowda is saying, that Mr. Parmeshwara simply said there was no one person on whom Hinduism was founded, whereas you can have that even for religions like Buddhism and Jainism. There is one founder of that religion, whereas not for Hinduism.
Zaka, firstly, this is a planned attack on Hindus and Hinduism by the Ghamandiya Gadbandhan. If you carefully observe the turn of events, this Ghamandiya Gadbandhan meets in Mumbai, and then Udhayanidhi Stalin reads out a scripted speech wherein he calls for eradication of Sanatana Dharma. Coming to Karnataka, one more dynast politician, Priyank Kharge, supports him. And now Parmeshwar makes a statement that Hinduism, the origin is not known. And you look at his complete statement. He talks about other religions having essence, which is good for all the people, mankind.
He said
what
all
is he talking
religions'
about?
essence
Is he
is good.
talking about Hinduism not being good? And then Siddaramaiah is a known Hindu hater and a Hindu basher, because by his statement it's very clear he is now wanting to comment on the cultural and religious ethos of the Hindu temples and what practices we have been following. At no point in time we are saying that discrimination is to be allowed. Nobody should be discriminated. Entry for temples should be allowed for everybody. Whereas Siddaramaiah or Congress doesn't have the guts to talk about any other religion which has got, apparently, even though certain practices are not essential to their faith, when they want to fight on those issues, these Congress people would come out on the streets protesting, saying that freedom of people is being taken away. This is the sinister ploy by Congress and its allies to defame Hindus and Hinduism.
So, Professor Gowda, every religion has some ritual or the other. Even in Islam and Christianity, when you enter their holy places of worship, you have to remove shoes, right? It's considered, no one calls that discriminatory, or no one calls that, going against essential religious practices or whatever. Point is that every religion has those customs. But how come no one says that in Islam or in Christianity it's insulting, but somehow in Hinduism it is insulting because you're asked to remove your shirt and go into certain temples and wear what is essentially unthreaded cloth?
This has become a fashion for Congress and its
allies. Let Professor Gowda respond.
Removing shoes does not let you tell one believer from the other. In this case, the sacred thread becomes visible and the priest can tell who is a Brahmin and who is not. And for some people,
now we are talking about from Hinduism have come to Brahminism.
Excuse me.
Let him speak.
So which is why, Zaka, for many decades, the shirt removal practice has been a source of discussion. And the temples have continued to do it. No one has asked for it to be stopped, but it's been criticized on and off, but the practice goes on.
No, but sir, that also, by implication, you are saying that every pujari, every priest discriminates against non-Brahmins.
There is potential for that. And in fact, many of these temples have separate eating lines. Brahmins eat separately than the non-Brahmins. It's established practice. Again, something that's been criticized, but it's not being stopped.
Potential for committing a crime. Every car that way is a potential murder weapon.
No, Zaka. What I mean is,
Zaka,
there
are
no
communities
boards there
where
saying
men and women sit separately during wedding ceremony. What do you call that then?
Yeah, exactly.
There are certain communities
even in
where men and women don't sit separately even during weddings.
Even in Islam and Christianity, there are separate places where women are allowed, and there are separate places where men are allowed. That can also be construed as discriminatory, Professor Gowda.
Zaka, one thing at a time. I mean, nobody is saying other religions are free of discrimination. We're just talking of this one example Siddaramaiah spoke of, and we're saying why it has been commented upon for decades. Siddaramaiah is not the first to point it out. I've heard this since I was a young boy. You know, if you go to a temple, it's uncomfortable. Men are asked to take off their shirts. Most people do it. It's not an issue, but it has been talked about as something that is better.
But GS Prashanth, you know, politically, whether you look at all the reactions that have come, particularly from South India, to what Udhyanidhi Stalin said, they are all positing this as the ills and evils of the caste system. And there, the BJP, you know, or any political party, cannot be seen as defending the caste discrimination, right?
Zaka,
but the BJP does not get into the caste question.
We are not supporting discrimination by caste at all. Because our government stands for Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwa, Sabka Prayas. So therefore, we are not discriminating. If you look at any of the centrally sponsored schemes, most of the beneficiaries are from minority communities. So therefore, there is no discrimination here. This now is only a sinister ploy by the Ghamandiya Gathbandhan only to incite the feelings of Hindus and Hinduism. This is what Rahul Gandhi is doing. We should ask Rahul Gandhi openly. He is talking about Mohabbat ki dukaan. He is now opening Nafrat ki shopping mall. He should answer that. Because he is now brought about all these 65 people together in a photograph to say they're standing together, India Alliance. What are they standing for? They are wanting to get votes of Hindus, but they bash Hindus day in, day out. Is it become the day job to bash Hindus? And Hindus have been tolerant for centuries.
So, Professor Chandan Gowda,
one thing could not be wiped out is Sanatana Dharma.
You know, you cannot blame the BJP in an election year if they are going to put 2 and 2 together. So, an Udhayanidhi Stalin saying something, a Siddaramaiah saying something else, Parmeshwara saying a third thing, will all be conflated because for the BJP it's one against all. That is the fight for 2024. So, anyone in that all is making a comment that is seen as anti-Hindu, they will latch on to it.
Yes, Zaka, you are absolutely right. It's being seen as an opportunity to build an issue, but we on this discussion are trying to be intelligent about how we understand these things separately. They're not to be clubbed at all. What Udhayanidhi Stalin said was something extremely different than what Parmeshwar said, than what Siddaramaiah said. There are three different points of view. They happen to be made in the space
of 2 days.
But we cannot see it as a conspiracy. Zaka, very quickly, the co-panelist, I was not accusing the government of discriminating. I'm only saying temples discriminate. They make Brahmin visitors sit separately. They feed them separately.
No, but Professor Gowda, you know, if we are dealing
but
with
it's a private practice.
No. If you are talking about discrimination, you have to be equanimous about it because there is discrimination in other religions also. None of these opposition leaders, by the way, none of these opposition leaders, Udhayanidhi Stalin or Siddaramaiah or Parmeshwara, are talking or even referring to discrimination in other religions. It's almost always discrimination in Hinduism.
Yes, Zaka, I think that's a fair observation. But my response to that is they're all speaking as Hindus, as being part of the same community. They've experienced it firsthand, and they can talk about it with a certain confidence and authority that they can't speak of with respect to other religions because they're not experienced them.
Okay.
But it's an observation to make. Like I think that.
Are you saying that Mr. Owaisi will now come and accept on public domain that there is discrimination there? You will never hear any other religious person from another religion or community talking ill of their own religion. It only happens with this Indie Alliance who wants to defame Hindus for their political survival.